Jered Williams, welcome back to your podcast.
Joel, what's up? This is as much your podcast as it is mine.
Yeah, I know. I make that claim because I try to speak first, and that's how you know.
Yeah. You steal my thunder.
Jered, I could never steal your thunder.
Thunder stealer.
Your thunder's on another level of thunder.
No. It's far from it, dude.
Yeah, well. So plumbing businesses, you own one, right?
Yep, I own one.
And you talk to plumbers all the time.
I do, yeah. I actually talk to a lot of plumbers all the time.
How? Let's see, like the plumbers that you work with.
I mean, I talk to plumbers that work for my company, right? Mm-hmm. But I also talk to. I'm pretty involved in Facebook groups and that kind of stuff, and talk to those plumbers. And then I do private coaching through the $1 Million Plumber program, and so I'm talking to plumbers in there as well about plumbing business and what they need to be doing.
How much of your time are you thinking about plumbing?
Dude, very low. I mean, well, it's probably more than you would think. Like if I actually sat down and tracked it, it's probably more than I think.
Yeah,
it's probably a lot.
Well, because you're not just thinking about obviously the physical act of doing plumbing. You're thinking about everything about what a plumbing business is, what it should be, and what it's doing. Right,
and then how? Yeah, lately I've been thinking about a lot. Like, okay, I've got these clients that are going through some. They're wanting to go from where they are to where they need to be, and then it's my job to say, hey, this is what you need to do next to get from where you're at to where you want to be.
Now, do you have clients across the spectrum? Do you have really small, just starting plumbing companies, ranging to bigger plumbing companies? What's your range?
So I'm probably in the, if they're seeking help, they're usually a smaller company.
Right.
So we're talking just started to. Maybe they're doing $2 or $3 million in revenue.
Gotcha.
And that's it. But they're doing $2 and $3 million in revenue with a lot of headache. It's not easy. $2 or $3 million in revenue.
What's the biggest headache?
As far as being in $2 or $3 million in revenue, just not having systems in place. I mean, you can you could probably get to $2 or $3 million and still be involved in the day to day and basically be pulling your hair out and working like crazy.
Sure.
But and then you kind of get stuck because you don't have the time to keep going because you don't have any systems in place, right?
Right.
So you can go in and put some systems in place relatively easy, and then continue from there. It's just but people don't know how, right? You don't know what you don't know and you need to learn.
Of course.
So that's where I would come in because I've been there, done that.
Is there a system that somebody should be implementing day one?
Yeah, I mean, they really should be day one. Day one, you should go flat rate. You shouldn't work by the hour.
Oh, gotcha.
That'd be system number one, right? And then even if you're getting a couple jobs a day, then the next thing you should do is hire somebody to answer your phone, in my opinion. Because it just frees up your brain to then go do more work and then bring in more money. And that way you can start spending that money on advertising. And then you have the time to hire guys and come up with all those kinds of systems. And then, I mean, probably the biggest system, once you get 2 or 3 guys going, well, even in the early days, you should have some sort of CRM.
Yeah, that's going to be my next question.
In your early days, you could have Jobber. It's super simple, and they'll take on anybody, and it's pretty cheap. But then eventually you need to move to something more complex, like Service Titan. And really, Service Titan's meant to just run one way. And so if you just run your business how Service Titan is kind of designed for you to run your business, then that's half your systems.
Do you have any clients that you're speaking with that have Service Titan, but they're finding they have to restructure their business to sort of fit within Service Titan's mold?
Yeah, or they'll try to bypass Service Titan.
Yeah, they'll try to just jank the system
to continue to do their business this certain way. And I'm like, dude, look, just do it this way. It makes it so it's already set up in the software for you to do it this way. Just go do it that way. It's so much easier.
So is there a common thing that you see across maybe multiple clients? And if not, we can just talk about one of them of that, an example of that.
No, not really. Like I can't even think of one off the top of my head. But I know, like, because when I first got into Service Titan, there was some things that needed to change to make Service Titan work.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh, well, we could go around it this way.
Right.
And then I was thinking to myself, like, man, to go around to this is a ton of work.
Yep.
Or I could just change the way we do it. And even though it's not exactly the way I want to do it, does it get the job done? Yes. Okay. And it's way easier because it's part of what Service Titan does. Then sweet. Let's just do it that way.
At my last job, we used a software, and we continually would go use our own workarounds to like be able to use the software as a supplemental. And in the back of my head, I have these conversations. I'd be like, it's kind of dumb that we're using other stuff to work with this. It'd be smarter for us to just either get rid of it completely and just do our own thing, build our own thing, or to just conform to what the thing does. But like by having like a part of a CRM like software and then going, well, I don't like that part, so I'm just going to supplement with my Excel spreadsheet. Then it's complicated. And then it doesn't make sense.
Chances are they built the CRM that way because that's a good way to run a business.
Yeah, right? and you just think like in your arrogance are like, no, I know way better.
Yeah, no, I want to do it this way.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, well, it's going to cost you more money to do it that way.
It's going to be a lot harder. And when you call me for help, I'm not going to be able to help you because you're not using my features, and you're paying me a lot of money to use my features.
Yeah, especially for a business like you used to work for Wright's Air Service, so they fly planes, right? That software was probably specifically written for that kind of a service.
Yeah, like, very much so.
Like people coming in the door, buying tickets, organizing whatever. I don't even know what all that includes. Just like Service Titan, it's written for a very specific few niches. So they wrote the software in a way where 90% of the business owners want to use them because it's set up how they run their business.
Right.
If 90% of all the other business owners are doing it this one way, chances are it's a pretty dang good way. Or at least it's proven, right? It's proven to work because 90% of the businesses are doing it. So just follow their proven method and just do it that way.
Yep.
So much easier. And then, like I said before, just by doing that, you'll have half of your systems in place, and then all you have to go do is add a few of your own, systems for things that are outside of your CRM.
Right.
And you can write those quickly.
What's going to be outside your CRM?
Just like your hiring process, your phone call script, your firing process, when you have like your working hours, your just all the stuff that you have to do in your business that isn't directly done in your CRM.
Right.
That's the kind of stuff. Like, we switch over our phones at night 2.5 hours. Well, we switch it in Service Titan, but it's not something that happens as a process in Service Titan. So we need to write a process for that.
Do you, in your business, do you have a lot of processes, like a lot of standard operating procedures?
There's a bit. I mean, I'm a big fan of keeping it simple because you can make it so complex it's retarded. And then like I'll see this a lot. Like a lot of people will worry about little details like, well, what if this or what if that? And so what I do in mine, rather than getting super complicated with the process, I always start with the goal so that the person reading the process knows the end goal is this. Because I don't really care like if you 100% follow my process, right?
Just get to the goal.
As long as the things that happened, like the things that need to happen get done, then I'm good. So if you come up with a different way you want to do it, then fine. And then you don't have to be as specific in your processes, right?
Yeah, because certain things are just like you can do something a million different ways. And also, what I found in writing processes is sometimes my process, one, works for me, and also maybe it only works for me. Like that's a negative example that I made a process. I'm like, oh, I guess this just works for me and how I work. This actually works for nobody. But by having the goal first, and then explaining to the person, be like, man, this is where you're trying to get. This is where I found is really a great way to do it. And if nothing else, start here and then innovate to make it your own.
Yeah, and why wouldn't you want your employees to innovate?
Oh yeah, because I don't assume that I'm the smartest person. Like,
Right.
like again, I found success doing it this way, but you could find success doing it this way, and maybe, hopefully, honestly, hopefully you'll find success doing it a better way, and then tell me, and then I'll tell somebody else, and then we can continue to innovate.
Yep, exactly.
So you're talking to these clients, and so they have very little processes.
Most of them, like if they come to me, most of them don't have processes down.
Gotcha.
And they don't know really where to start. Like they don't even know, a lot of them don't even know how to communicate to their guys, or, and it's so key. I know we were talking, I'm just thinking of like a client that I was talking to yesterday. Didn't know how to communicate to his guys. So his guys didn't know what their expectations were. Right. And then they didn't know if they did good or if they did bad.
Right.
And so his results were just all over the place because nobody knows, like, if somebody does something good that you like they do a good job taking care of a customer and you make more money that day. Well, you need to go to those people and go, hey, you did really good. That was awesome. Whatever you did, do more of that because it works. That's what I like. That's what I want. And then let them know, thank you. That was rad, right? Makes them feel good, number one. And then it also lets them know, oh, I need to do more of that. That's what they want me to do here.
Right.
And then when they do something you don't want, go to them and say, hey, I don't want that here. So don't do that anymore, please. Thank you. Right? Like sounds
easy
simple.
As that.
And that does get a little more difficult. Like, each person's going to have their own way of doing that. And when you go to somebody, obviously, you need to not make them feel like they're being attacked.
Right.
So my favorite way to go about it is to say, I would go to the person, I'd pull them apart, aside privately. And I would say, hey, so-and-so, you've been doing a really good job, been here for a while, really appreciate you. And then I would say, this thing you did yesterday, this isn't like you to do it this way or for you to have this result. What happened there? And I would give him the chance to tell me what happened, or I would even maybe put some words in his mouth. Like, was it this, or this? Was it something that I did? Is there something we need to help you more with? Make yourself involved in the problem, and then you can figure it out. And people usually take it well. And then you can say, okay, well, let's not do that again.
Yeah, I always found a lot of success with approaching those things like it was my fault, even though this person might have made a failing. But when I approached him, I'm like, man, like as you said, bring attention to the problem, and then be like, so what can I do to sort of help you do this better? Because clearly there's something that I'm missing in the component, and I didn't know what that is because I'm trying to figure out how we can make this situation not happen again. So what do I need to do?
Yeah, and in reality, if you're managing people, or if you own the business, the people that you manage or the people under you that work for you, any problem that they have or any downfall that they have or something they do wrong, that's ultimately your fault.
Yeah, 100%.
It's your job to go figure out how to make these people do what you want them to do. And if you don't do that, that's your fault. Like if they're not doing the things to make your company successful, that is your fault. So you have to go figure out, okay, do I need a process for this? Do I need to communicate something? Why is this happening? And how can I go make it not happen again? How can I make it so that rather than doing this, we go do this thing over here that will actually make us successful? That's your job as a business owner or even a manager if you're managing people. Right?
Yeah, I think assuming as much responsibility as you possibly can is a good perspective. The weakest people I've worked with are those who don't assume any responsibilities. And it's worse when you see that within a position of like a manager, or worse yet, a business owner, where they will just blame everybody else for the circumstances. That's the worst. Yeah. It's like working for that person sucks. That company's not going to do well.
Because he likely, if you're working for somebody like that, then he likely doesn't supply you with what you need to do your job,
No.
and then gets mad at you because you didn't do your job, and then doesn't even offer to listen to you of how you could actually go about doing your job better.
Right.
So if you can like just provide that for your employees, then they'll like you way better.
Oh, they will.
They're going to be way better set up to do their jobs, and then you're going to have a much better running company. So it's like a no-brainer in my mind.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer in my mind. I think it's just maybe people find themselves in position of leadership that they got there by happenstance or they got there by skill. Like I've seen people who are incredibly skilled get into positions of leadership, but they're very bad leaders. But they're really good at their job. They just suck with people. And I'd rather have somebody who's less skilled, who's really good at handling people. Because if you can be a person who can encourage other people to elevate their value, even if you're not great at all the things, but if you can do that, oh, dude, you can do anything.
Yeah. I would say that's probably not one of my strong suits is managing people. That's why I hired a general manager who's way better at it than I am. Like you always have that option too.
Yes.
Like once you get to a certain point, you can be like, okay, I'm not very good at this. Obviously, if you own a business, you need to get as good at it as you can because you're going to have to do it to some extent. But if there's a bunch of people that need to be managed and you're not a very good manager, then hire somebody to go manage those people and go do what you are good at. If you're not good at anything, well, then hire everything out.
And then I would say, like, when you hire that person, like, be very selective because you do have to be able to get along with that person. And you do have to have a rapport with that manager because he's going to be looking you as the same way that everybody is looking to him. But the difference is you only have to imprint upon one person instead of however many people you have, which is, again, like once you start to get bigger and bigger, then you need to be able to, as a manager, you need to imprint upon a smaller group of people who then imprint upon a smaller group of people. But by maintaining a consistent vision and a consistent culture of leadership, hopefully you can make that happen and everything can run. But I think underneath that, all that is a process of systems because there has to be something that you can point to as a manager to be like, well, this is the system and this is why we do it. And a good system will generally have baked into it the reason why we're doing what we're doing. Because I know from experience where if you're given a system and it's not clear why you're doing it, it's harder to have buy-in. And then you're just going to do what you want, which could be the wrong thing because you don't know why. Why would I do this new thing? It seems like it's more work. I don't want to do more work. I'm going to keep cutting the corner because that's important to me and my time. So explaining why we do things, I think, is really important on the system side.
Yeah. So like to put that in perspective for a plumbing company, like for mine specifically, you know, ours is like why we're in business. Like our goal and our mission as Prospector Plumbing and Heating is to be the best, the premier plumbing and heating contractor in Fairbanks, Alaska. And then to do that, we need to provide the customer with the best customer service. Like we have to take care of the customer. So how do we take care of the customer? Well, we offer them quick service, we give them options, and we always revert to taking care of the customer.
Sure.
And all of that will lead to us making money, which will allow us to take better care of the customer in the end, which will allow us to be the premier plumbing and heating company in Fairbanks, Alaska. And that's like the overall, right? And so those are things you need in your systems. Like why are you working here? Like what is your company all about? What's the goal? That because you need to sell that to your employees to get buy-in.
And I think by having that large vision, when you create a new system, you can then check your new system to see if it lines up with the vision. Because you might create a system that actually doesn't line up. And if you don't have any way to check it, you just might have systems that are all over the place. And then the techs and whoever else is working, that's going to be a nightmare because they're going to have all these conflicting ideas within their systems that don't line up. Like, oh, I'm supposed to be taking care of Mrs. Jones, but right here it tells me to do something that is not taking care of Mrs. Jones.
Right. Yeah. And then if you don't do any of it, like if you don't communicate any of that, when they're in the field, they don't know if they should worry about how much money they're spending or how much money they're making, or if they should worry about taking care of Miss Jones. So if they get put in a situation where they might have to spend some money to take care of Miss Jones, it's up for grabs. I want them to say, we're going to do whatever it takes to take care of Miss Jones, our customer, right? Spend that money. All my guys know that. I always ask them. Like every Monday morning, I asked them, what do we do to take care? Like, how far do we go to take care of the customer? What extent do we go to? Like, how much do we care about that? And they're all like, any extent. It doesn't matter. We have to
Hmm.
take care of the customer. End of story.
That seems to me like that could be a hard point for newer plumbing business owners to get over. Would you agree?
It is, especially when you're in the beginning stages and the money might be a little tight. You know, you might not have the funds necessarily. But I would just say, if you screw something up at somebody's house and you don't go the extra mile to make it right, then they're going to go leave you a bad review, and that bad review is going to cost you way more than the amount that you spend on that customer.
Yeah, and then also like steeping into the human side of it where it's like, and that was a person that their house isn't working. Like they're a human who's living and they're like, my heat is still out or
Yeah.
whatever. Like
Yep.
that sucks. Like just
Yeah.
from the human experience side.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. 100%. Like we tell our guys, if they screw something up and somebody doesn't have water, go put them up in a hotel. Call and get a hotel room for them. Spend the $200-300 on a hotel room.
Yeah, yeah.
At the end of the day, $200-300 on a hotel room is nothing. That's a happy customer.
That is a happy. I mean,
right?
and it's those things that make your company feel unique and different.
Yep.
Because they understood your situation and they have a solution for your situation, which obviously isn't ideal to go stay in a hotel. And like chances are they might not take it, but even the offer is like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I won't completely write you off. I'll
Yeah.
continue to give you a chance to make this right.
Yeah. Sorry, ma'am. I made a mistake. There's no way I'm going to get your hot water back on tonight. Can I put you up in a hotel?
Yeah.
That means the world.
Oh, and even the first part of that sentence is so key. I made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Like people who can come out swinging are like, hey, you know what? This is on me. I messed this up, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm sorry. We'll make it right. Like that's when people are really like, you know what? Okay. I appreciate this a lot. Whatever you got to do. No big deal.
Yep.
Those words are so powerful. I made a mistake. I don't think that we can really undervalue those words too much.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was, that took me a while to learn when I first started going into people's houses and working on their plumbing. A lot of people don't want to say, I don't know what the problem is. And I learned to go in and because you don't always know what the problem is. And customer would ask me and they'd be standing there and I'd be like, I don't know. But then after a while you start to build your confidence and it's like, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah, sure. And you can communicate that in a way that doesn't sound like you're unaccomplished. It just makes you sound like, oh, this is part of my process. I come to these things not knowing anything. But guess what?
Exactly.
I'm going to know a lot real soon.
Yeah, we're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then I'll let you know how much it'll cost.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
What are some of, like, if somebody has a plumbing business, like, what is the quickest thing that they could do to start generating momentum? I mean, we talked about flat rate pricing. We've talked about getting some kind of CRM and then maybe hiring a CSR. But what's another thing that somebody could implement today that could really change their business tomorrow?
So, I mean, there's like a few key things. There's a few key pillars to every plumbing business, right? You have to be able to make your phone ring, right? So you have to be able to get to work. So you have to do some sort of marketing, right? A lot of people skip this. Like when you're first starting out, you can get a business license, you can get a logo, you need to get your GMB up and running, your Google My Business profile. And then you can get on Google local service ads. But even then, you're going to have a hard time getting phone calls. You need to go hire a marketing company to come in and create your website, start running Google AdWords for you so that you can then start getting calls on the door. And where I think most people can get to this point, but where most people fail is that they just stop at that.
Yeah.
They don't go any further into their marketing. Like you have to continually be pushing forward on your marketing. Um, like when, you know, like an example, I had Google AdWords going. I had a website. I had reviews on my AdWords. I had Google services going. Um, and I had Google pay per click going, all that stuff, right? And it would, I'd have an opportunity to hire a guy. So I'd have 4 trucks, 3 of them with butts in them. And a guy would come to me and I had an opportunity to hire him. Well, I would always hire him because I wanted to grow my company. But then I would be like, man, I don't have enough calls in for this guy. So I would go to my marketing company and say, what other forms of advertising can we do that are going to be effective? And let's get them going. So next step might be like social media or radio ads or TV ads or direct mail or something. Sponsoring local events, that kind of stuff. Most people just stop at like the internet based
Right.
marketing, and then they get to a point where they don't have enough calls and they haven't too many guys, and they don't understand like that they can literally just spend more money on marketing and get more calls coming in the door. Seems like an easy brainer, like a no brainer, right? So, like the key things to building momentum, marketing, because you have to get the phone calls in the door. And then you have to have a way to capture those phone calls and turn them into book
Mm-hmm.
jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And I call these the 4 pillars. And then you need to have, the tools and the equipment. So the vans, all the tools to go in the vans, whatever equipment you might need, drain cleaning equipment, analyzing equipment, that kind of stuff. You got to have that. And then you got to have the people, the butts to put in the vans to go actually do the work, right? And then they need to have a system. So part of the tools would be your CRM.
Mm-hmm.
So you need guys to use your CRM, follow your processes, and then go build the work. So those are like the 4 key pillars. And if you get hung up on any one of those, it's going to affect your business.
Sure.
If you're not
Yeah.
doing enough marketing, you're not going to get enough phone calls. If you're getting phone calls, but you can't convert them into book jobs, then the phone calls aren't doing you any good. You're wasting
And
your
your
money.
marketing's not doing it good.
If you're getting the phone calls and the book jobs, but you don't have the tools and the equipment to actually do the job, you don't have a CRM, you don't have a drain cleaning machine, you don't have enough vans, then the phone calls don't do you any good, right? And then if you've if you don't have the guys, like you've got all the tools and all the vans, you've got all the phone calls coming in, but you don't have people to actually go run those calls, then you still have nothing. So you need all 4 of those things to make the whole thing work. And what's cool about, like, if you think about it that way, if you're like, okay, I don't have enough phone calls, well, you can go, well, I need to do more marketing. If you go, I've got an empty van here, or I've got 4 vans and one guy's not busy, I need more phone calls. Well, to do more phone calls, you got to do more marketing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you've got guys there, or maybe you've got an empty van, you need more guys because you've got too many phone calls. You go, well, I need more vans and more guys so I can do more marketing to get more phone calls, to buy more vans, to get more guys, to do more marketing, to get more phone calls, on and on and on and on. That's really the game you got to play, especially when you're growing, right?
Yep.
So when you just start out, your sole focus should be marketing, getting phone calls, and then you go do the
Sure.
work,
Yep.
right?
And
Obviously,
then
you got to have a van, you got to have the tools, but you go do the work. And then once you've got the marketing in place, the phone calls coming in, then you start going, what other equipment do I need to get more people in here? Okay, I need to get more vans, more tools. I need to get a CRM in place. And then once that's in place, let me get the guys to actually go run more calls so that I don't have to run the calls all the time. And then once you get the guy, you're like, okay, do I have enough work for the guy? Are we getting enough phone calls? Probably not. Let's spend more on marketing, right? It's just this big circle. It's literally that simple. But a
yep.
lot of people miss that circle of life in your plumbing business. Make sense?
Dude, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. It literally is that simple. But it's like, when you're in the thick of it
Sure.
and maybe you've done some marketing and you're getting phone calls and you're trying to run jobs, it's hard to think about all that stuff. It really is. And if you don't know how it all works and you've never seen it in action, then that stuff is difficult to think about. You
Let
don't
me
know what you don't know. You got to learn it somehow.
let's end with this. So we have sort of the four pillars that you described, what you
Hmm.
need. What is probably the top, or maybe a list of limiting beliefs that keep guys from sort of embracing those pillars? Because it seems like that, at least the companies I talk to, that there's something that they're not doing that is prohibiting from their growth. So what are the limiting beliefs that need to be overcome for them to do whatever they need to do?
Yeah, you see a lot of guys who go into it thinking they're just going to be a one-man show and not
Sure.
actually build a company, in which case the four pillars kind of falls apart because it's just all you. And what's going to happen is you're going to get too busy and you're not going to make enough money and it's going to suck. I've done that. I've been there way too many times. And then you're going to be like, you're either going to continue to do that for the rest of your life and end your life with nothing, or you're going to quit doing it and then go get another job,
Yeah.
right? I've seen both. But the better path to go down is to go, okay, how do I actually make this business run like a business
Mm.
with people
Mm-hmm.
and get it to the point where I don't have to be involved? Because then you build something of value that you can sell or makes you enough money to where you can go retire and on and on and on. So
So
that's probably the biggest one I see. Like people not wanting to actually grow it into a legit business because they think that that's going to be complicated and hard to do and a lot of work. And it is going to be complicated and hard to do, but it's going to be worth it. Like it's harder to do the other way. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want employees. That sounds difficult. Or I don't want to grow so big that that it takes all my time. I'm like, no, no, no. It's going to be difficult if you don't have employees.
yeah.
It's going to be difficult if you don't grow because it's going to take all your time. It's the opposite.
So if I may summarize, that limiting belief to me, or maybe not summarize, maybe just extrapolate. The limiting belief to me seems like it's a limiting belief of the wrong goal. Like they
Yeah.
get into this plumbing business with the goal of, I don't know what the goal is, but it's not the right one, because the right one would be to create something that is valuable, that you don't have to spend all your life on, that you can
Yep.
eventually sell to be able to make a profit, to make you money, and then go do what you want. Like
Yep.
instead
Yeah.
of just
Or
being like,
retire or
yeah,
whatever.
go retire, whatever you start your next business, whatever you want to do. But instead
Yeah.
of walking into it being like, hey, I'm good at this, I'm just going to do this by myself and it's going to be easier. Because,
Yeah.
like,
I've watched guys do that, man. They run a business for 30 years by themselves or maybe one other guy. And then they're 60, 65, still running around doing calls. And then their business is worth nothing.
yeah, because
And
nobody
they
wants to buy
haven't made
that.
enough money to actually go make a retirement for themselves. And they just end up quitting. Or I've seen some of them sell for very little amounts of money and be able to retire because their wife had a retirement.
Sure.
But I look at that and it's sad because they worked their butts off for 30 years and then were left with nothing. That's not how it should be.
Yeah. So if before you start your business, make sure just to, before you start your plumbing business, we'll even say just to be clear on your goal
Oh yeah.
and
Like
make your
if you
goal
don't want to
like,
grow it into a real business, then don't do it.
yeah,
Like just go get a job.
it's too much
Just
responsibility with no payoff.
yeah. And
Like just go
like
work for the
most
lame
people
boss, whatever.
think where the limiting think is they're like they think that they're going to go start their own company. It's going to be just them. They think they're going to make more money and they think they're going to have way more freedom. And it lasts for about 2 weeks. I'm serious, dude.
I
It
know
lasts
you
about
are.
2 weeks
I
and
know
then they're
you are.
like way too busy. And then at the end of the year, they get their tax return back. They don't have any money in the bank. And they're like, crap, I made like half of what I would have made if I just went and worked for somebody else. That's how it goes. And people will continue on that for a long, long time. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they quit and go back to work. That's what I did twice. And it's not until you actually go, okay, I'm going to turn this into a legit business and build something of value that you can actually get the freedom and the extra money that you need.
Yeah, so it's like the moral of the story is if you start a plumbing business, you need to run it like a plumbing business.
Yep, there you
Emphasis
go.
on the business part, not the
create
plumbing part.
create
the
a real
business.
thing.
Yeah,
Don't be a one-man band.
Yeah, don't half-ass it. Actually make a
If
company.
you want to go offer great plumbing service all by yourself, just go work for somebody else. Go offer
and then
great plumbing service.
Yeah, be that star guy who's probably going to make more money because but he gets to go home every night and just not think about it.
Yeah. But if you want ultimate freedom and more money, go start a real business.
Yeah.
And grow it into something that is valuable that doesn't need you there. 100%.
100%. Thanks, Jered.
You bet, boss. See you next week.
Yeah, on the right day.